I just want to remind you that my review of The Mandalorian Grogu is out now. The first Star Wars movie in 7 years really surprised me, and maybe my review will do the same for you. So go check that out, but back to today's program. Hey guys, hello and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So today we are once again returning to The Mandalorian and Grogu because we finally have a response, some comments from the House of Mouse. Something which you've probably seen making the rounds for the last week or so are the box office projections. This seems to be the obsession at the moment with various outlets. People are saying it deserves to flop, this is going to serve Lucasfilm right, it's doing worse than Solo, and so on and so forth. And really there is this overarching narrative that it's sweet revenge, that the projected failure of The Mandalorian and Grogu is a good sign that things have to change. Lucasfilm's not happy, Disney certainly isn't happy, and it doesn't help that this is coming just days after Jon Favreau basically admitted he doesn't know why this was a movie in the first place. Well, what if I told you that Disney has responded? And while different studio insiders have a different take on this, I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. It appears as though their attitude and their response is different to what you might have assumed. In fact, some insiders are saying that this is more or less what they expected. And the future of Lucasfilm, the future of Star Wars does not depend on this movie alone. In fact, they seem very keen to move on from it. This comes to us thanks to The Hollywood Reporter, and in a brand new piece they got comments from various anonymous execs from different studios. A couple from inside Disney, a few exhibitors, so people in charge of the big cinema chains, and a rival exec who had some pretty damning things to say. But the main Disney source they contacted seemed pretty optimistic about the situation, and their biggest hope is that regardless of the box office, the movie might do okay on the streaming service. It's almost like they knew The Mandalorian and Grogu was never going to be a huge hit. I've seen an assumption from various media trades that Lucasfilm is treating The Mandalorian and Grogu like a saga movie, but that just isn't the case. They weren't expecting $1 billion box office, and they didn't even market it the same. And the anonymous sources go on to repeat something we've heard from them before, that they believe Star Wars Starfighter next year is the real test. That's the movie they're relying on to give them insights into how audiences feel about Star Wars in the mid to late 2020s, not The Mandalorian and Grogu. Disney isn't phased, and it seems like it's performing exactly the way they thought it would. Now this could just be cope, this could just be the way they feel about the movie after the fact, but it's long been documented that Star Wars Starfighter is the one they're really banking on. And they actually confirmed something which I predicted a few weeks ago, that they're banking on a huge Disney Plus premiere for The Mandalorian and Grogu. That's not speculation, that's in their own words. But if you want to know the Star Wars movie that Disney cares the most about, the one whose box office, if it does badly, is going to hit them where it hurts, it's Star Wars Starfighter. Disney is exuding confidence in Sean Levy's work, and they're convinced, based on the more serious tone, the fact it stars A-listers like Ryan Gosling, that it's going to bring in a much higher box office. I wouldn't be surprised if they're right. It's going to feel much more like the saga movies than The Mandalorian and Grogu does. It's such a different kind of Star Wars film. It's similar in the sense that it's another father-son duo spin-off, but it's different to The Mandalorian because it's got more conventional Star Wars elements. The Force, lightsabers, which has been confirmed, and by all accounts, higher galactic stakes. And from the sounds of things, they're probably going to market Starfighter 3 times as hard as Mando. You're going to see this thing everywhere. If Disney and Lucasfilm are taking it as seriously as they're saying, if this is, and pardon the pun, their Hail Mary, then they need to start pushing this film as soon as possible. We've heard rumblings that a teaser trailer could be coming in the next few months, maybe at D23 Expo. And I'm just happy now that Mando is done, going into Starfighter we don't have to premise everything with the same sentence, this is the first Star Wars movie in 7 years. In that sense, the pressure's been relieved a bit. But from the perspective of the House of Mouse, the pressure has never been greater. The Mandalorian and Grogu was never the real test. So let's dive into what's being said. The latest estimate for The Mandalorian and Grogu's 4-day weekend box office is $160 to $170 million, a tad above early tracking a few weeks back, with The Mandalorian expected to best the $148 million that Solo: A Star Wars Story accrued. In terms of the domestic figure, they're predicting $95 to $100 million, just a little bit shy of Solo's $103 million. In other words, they say, expect apocalyptic headlines come Sunday or Monday. This could be the worst opening for a Disney Star Wars movie to date. So how does Disney feel about this? The impact it will have on Disney Plus is critically important to us. That's according to one Disney exec. Not only could it ultimately end up on the service and get tens of millions of hours of watch views, it will also have an impact on The Mandalorian seasons 1 through 3. But what they also found is that it's not just helping The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, but the entire Star Wars catalogue. In other words, already with the release of The Mandalorian Grogu in cinemas, Star Wars fans are going back to rewatch their favourite movies and shows. And I think they're right about this. There has been a noticeable uptick in searches for Star Wars content, whether that's on YouTube, on Disney Plus. Ever since May the 4th and Maul's Shadow Lord came to an end, Star Wars fans are re-engaged. And with the rise of cinema tickets, I have seen a lot of fans, even people I know in real life, say that they're just gonna wait for The Mandalorian Grogu to drop on Disney Plus. Tons of fans feel as though they've already paid for the service, so they may as well wait, especially with all of the reviews, both positive and negative, saying that the movie just feels like several episodes of the TV show put on the big screen. Moving on, my friends, one opinion coming out of a top cinema exhibitor is that the movie is performing exactly the way they expected. They say, quote, "The Mandalorian is actually mostly meeting our mid-expectations. No one ever really thought this would be a massive colossal success, especially when the trailers launched. They were wise to take a lot of time after The Rise of Skywalker, but they spent their time making 7 live-action shows, only one of which was consistently great, and they're talking about Tony Gilroy's Andor." Another top exhibitor is of a different opinion. They say this movie could play to families in a big way, so it could open closer to 100 million domestically. Disney never expected this to be a huge hit, and when it was screened to them a few months ago, they did say that they were concerned about it. They weren't very impressed with the visuals, the scale, the scope, and they were just waiting to get this over with. Another message from Inside Disney is this: the next Star Wars film, 2027 Starfighter, is far more of a real test, since Mando is a Disney Plus series that leapt from the small screen to the big screen. While that may sound like classic goalpost moving, at least one exec agrees, saying this: "It's a Mandalorian movie with very little new Star Wars characters in it. It's not a Star Wars movie." And this is why I think so many people are looking to Josh D'Amaro for the future of Star Wars. What kind of collaboration is he going to have with Dave Filoni? What is he going to approve? What's he going to veto? And what lessons are they going to learn from this film? Even if it's not their so-called big test. Moving on to our next source, they also defend Starfighter, saying this: "We're done shooting it, and it's been cut together now." And here is a huge reveal from them. "We definitely have a plan as to what we're going to do next with the franchise after that. We're knee-deep into it. This has been an ongoing plan for a while. And this plan, which Dave Filoni kind of alluded to the other day, I believe is going to be unveiled at Star Wars Celebration." So there you have it, my friends. That is Disney's response. They're like, whatever, we didn't expect this to do well in the first place. Let's move on to Star Wars Starfighter. Share your thoughts on all of this news in the comments down below. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree? Are they just moving the goalpost and coping? Let me know.